Welcome everyone to today's episode. I'm here to talk about something I believe is vital for anyone stepping into their golden years. Learning how to cultivate a certain coldness, a gentle detachment that protects your well-being. Now, you might wonder, isn't it better to be warm, enthusiastic, and outgoing, in truth? There are times when being overly accommodating, constantly involved, can drain us. As we age, our capacity for boundless enthusiasm dwindles, and holding on to a measured sense of coldness? It can actually help us preserve our spirit, safeguard our physical health, and protect our emotional balance. Growing older isn't merely about making it through the day. It's about finding ways to thrive peacefully and confidently in a life stage that demands self-care more than ever. Here in America, many seniors experience social pressures from family, neighbors, religious, communities, social clubs, or even just casual acquaintances at the grocery store. People might assume that once you're retired, you've got all the time and patience in the world. Some might think you're always up for a chat, always eager to help at the drop of a hat. Now, don't get me wrong, being kind and supportive is admirable. But there comes a moment when you need to protect your peace. You can't pour unlimited energy into the people around you and expect to stay mentally and emotionally well. Eventually, you'll run out of fuel. And that's when loneliness, or worse, a sense of neglect, creeps in. No one can be a perpetual ray of sunshine. Even the brightest star has its limits. By learning to set boundaries, by consciously allowing a little bit of coldness, we can refuel our inner resources and maintain an optimistic spirit for the long term. Now let me tell you a story. A few. Years back, I met a woman named Evelyn. Sweetest soul you'd ever meet. Always baking cookies for the grandkids, always the first to volunteer at church. But one day, she collapsed. Not from illness, from exhaustion. See, Evelyn had spent decades saying yes to everyone. Need a babysitter? Call Evelyn. Need a casserole for the potluck? Evelyn's got you. Need someone to listen to your problems for 3 hours? Evelyn wouldn't dare interrupt, and then one morning, she just stopped. Her daughter found her sitting at the kitchen table, staring blankly at a half-finished pie. When she asked what was wrong, Evelyn whispered, "I don't know who I am when I'm not taking care of everyone else." That's when it hit her. She had spent so much of herself on others that there was nothing left for her. Now, Evelyn's story isn't unique. I bet you felt it too, that slow, creeping fatigue when you realize you've been giving too much. But here's the twist. Evelyn changed. She started saying no, not in a cruel way, not in a "I don't care" way, but in a "I love you, but I love myself too" way. And guess what? The world didn't end. Her grandkids still adored her. Her church still valued her. But now, she had energy again. She had joy. That's the power of a little coldness. Now, let's talk about emergencies, because here's something critical. When panic hits, coldness saves lives. Take Mr. Johnson, a 75-year-old retired accountant from Chicago. One afternoon, he locked himself out of his house, with his 2-year-old grandson still inside. Panic set in hard. He fumbled with the spare key, hands shaking, heart pounding. Snap. The key broke in the lock. Now the baby's crying, Mr. Johnson's sweating, and every second feels like an eternity. He starts racing around the house, checking windows, yelling for neighbors, his mind spinning in circles. But here's what he didn't do. Stop. Breathe. Think. If he had taken just 30 seconds to calm down, he might have remembered the back window that always jiggles loose, or the neighbor who keeps a spare ladder in his garage. Instead, the police had to pry open a window, while Mr. Johnson stood there, guilt eating him alive. The lesson? Coldness isn't heartlessness. It's clarity in chaos. When your spouse collapses, when the smoke alarm blares at 3 a.m., when anything goes wrong, pause. Just for a second, because rushing leads to mistakes. And mistakes, at our age, They can cost us everything. Now let's talk about people, because not everyone deserves a front row seat in your life. You ever run into that person? The one who always left a bad taste in your mouth? Maybe it's the old coworker who stole credit for your ideas. The cousin who loved stirring up drama at family reunions. The so-called friend who only calls when they need something. Here's the hard truth. You don't owe them warmth. As we age, our time is precious. Our energy is limited. And every minute spent on toxic people is a minute stolen from joy. So when they show up at the senior center with that fake smile, asking, "Remember the good old days?" You don't have to play along. A polite nod. A vague, sure do. And then, walk away, because coldness here isn't rude, it's survival. And hey, if you're finding this helpful, why not hit subscribe? That way, you won't miss the next life-changing tip. Trust me, you'll want to hear what's coming next. Now, let's talk about family, because this is where coldness gets tricky. You spend decades raising your kids, changing diapers, wiping tears, sacrificing sleep, money, sanity, all so they can grow into strong, independent adults. And then, one day, they do. And suddenly, they don't need you the same way. Oh, they'll still call, still visit, but the decisions, the mistakes, those are theirs now. And that's when the real test begins. Because watching your child marry someone you don't trust, seeing them struggle with money when you know better, hearing them yell at your grandkids the same way you yelled at them, it hurts, and your first instinct? Fix it. But here's the twist. Fixing it can break your relationship. Your daughter doesn't want your unsolicited advice on her marriage. Your son doesn't need your critique on his parenting. What they need is to know you're there when they ask. So be cold, not uncaring, patient, let them fail. Let them learn, because that's how you learned. And now, the biggest trap of all, money talk. Nothing stirs up drama like finances in retirement, because here's the thing. Everyone's situation is different. Some folks have pensions thicker than a Sunday newspaper. Others are stretching Social Security like taffy, and both are nobody's business. So when nosy Nancy at bingo asks, "How much do you get a month?" you smile and you say, "Enough." Because details? They invite judgment, pity, or worse, scams. That sweet-talking financial advisor at the community center? He doesn't need to know about your IRA, your neighbor bragging about his can't-lose investment. Let him lose alone. Your money is yours. Guard it like a dragon guards gold. And speaking of guarding things, let's talk physical limits, because this is where pride goes to die. You've always been the strong one. The I'll handle it one. But here's the truth. Your bones aren't 25 anymore. That quick favor of moving a couch? It could leave you bedridden for weeks. That harmless climb up the ladder to clean the gutters? One slip and it's game over. So when someone asks for just a little help, ask yourself, is this worth my independence? Because coldness here isn't selfish, it's smart. Now, let's talk technology, because oh boy, does this trip up seniors. Your grandkid sets you up on Facebook. It'll help you stay connected, and suddenly, you're bombarded with political rants, fake news. Forward this or you'll have bad luck. And the worst? The guilt trips. Why didn't you like my post? You never reply to my messages. Here's the fix. Be cold. Turn off notifications. Check it once a week. Or delete it entirely. Your peace is worth more than fake connection. And finally, the biggest lesson of all. You don't owe anyone an explanation. Not for resting. Not for saying no. Not for living life on your terms. You've earned this. So be cold. When you need to. Not cruel. Clear. Because the right people will understand. And the wrong ones? Well, they weren't yours to keep anyway. Now if this resonated with you, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button. Because this is just the beginning. And remember, growing older isn't about shrinking. It's about choosing, wisely, boldly, unapologetically. So go on, be a little cold. Your future self will thank you.